Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
First one is titled, Pretending to Not Speak English After We Ask You to Move Your Car Off Our Property? Fine, we'll do it ourselves. Dad just told me this story tonight. Before my parents divorced, we lived in a 3-house neighborhood. Our neighbors to the left of us were friendly and we got along with them well. Our neighbors on the right, however, were different. It was rented out to multiple families, one of them being an Asian family with 7 cars. This is relevant. Always conflict with them, from 24/7 house parties to trying to break into our cars. The family always caused trouble for whatever reason, dysfunctional and probably in debt with how many cars they had between 4 people. There was a particular tree on our property that my dad always parked his car under. It was obvious and known that was my dad's spot. One evening, my dad comes home to find the Asian neighbors had parked their car in his spot. A dead car that they didn't use anymore because they probably couldn't afford to fix it, so they decided our property was the best place to leave it to rot. My dad knocked on their door and asked them to move it so he could park, but the gentleman at the door said in a thick accent, "Sorry, no speak English, no speak English." Which was obvious BS. My dad was not amused. He told them, "All right. Just move your car or I'll call someone to get it towed." 2 weeks go by and the car is still there. 3 weeks, they still haven't moved the car. My dad gets fed up. They may have 7 cars, but that didn't mean they could park on our property. My dad decided to take matters into his own hands. He rented a tow truck and waited for the family to be out of the house. Hooked up the car and drove it out to a random parking lot in the shopping center nearby and left it there. Next day, the neighbor came by. "Hey man, do you know what happened to my car?" Perfectly English, not a trace of an accent all of a sudden. Surprise, surprise. My dad played dumb about it. "I thought you couldn't speak English." "Sorry, man, I don't know what happened to your car. If you moved it though, thank you, man. I appreciate it." Our neighbor couldn't do much because he didn't have any proof my dad did it. Didn't talk to us or park in our spot ever again. Next one is titled, I am going 10 over, still tailgating me? Here, let me show you something. I am driving to work a few months ago and getting close. I have 2 turns remaining until I turn into the building. It is just a few blocks away. All side streets, no highways involved. This guy behind me is in a black BMW, and he is on my butt the whole time. I see him checking his phone, then making angry faces at me and getting closer and closer. I speed up a bit, thinking it might calm him down. 5 over, nope. Anyway, I make the first turn, and am now on the street where my building is, maybe 600 yards up ahead. The a-hole is still behind me, driving inches from behind me and obviously upset that I am still going the speed limit, maybe 35 on this street. So I speed up a bit and see he does the same. I drive an 8-year-old Toyota truck, not one of the big huge ones, but not one of the small ones. I do have all-terrain tires, and I have certainly driven through pastures, over rocks, popped a curb or 10 in my time. My suspension is in good shape and have no problem treating my decade-old truck like a truck. Well, as I get closer to my building, there is a large speed bump in the street, effectively to get people to slow down as they approach the parking garage entrances. I look back and see a hole still riding my bumper. I remember thinking to myself, I need to slow down for this speed bump, and looking back and thinking, if I hit my brakes, this guy is going to hit me. The plan takes shape in my mind and I speed up. I am doing about 45 when I hit that speed bump, and yeehaw. I did a bit of a jump and land, never once touching my brakes. Didn't even tap them. I gave him 0 warning for what was about to happen. I am watching my rear view window intensely during this because I wanted to see his reaction. He was cradling his cell phone between his ear and shoulder when he hit. His hood bucked up behind me, and then slams to the ground. I see him go flying out of his seat straight up. He slams his head on the roof of his BMW and his head rolls sideways from impact. Then he slams back into his seat violently. He has a total "what the hell was that" look on his face as he grabs the wheel with both hands to recover. And yes, he slowed right the duck down after that. Next one is titled, Obnoxious Girls Get Their Food Stolen While I Sit Back and Watch. So my boyfriend and I went to the beach a couple of weeks ago, and considering it was midweek, it was pretty empty. So we walk for a bit, find a nice quiet spot, and set up our towels. Honestly, there were like no one on the beach. 10 minutes into tanning, these 3 girls walk up and set their stuff right next to us. The entire beach is still empty. They set up their things and begin chatting extremely loudly about the most unbearably obnoxious things. I don't understand why he wouldn't like me. I mean, I'm ticking all the boxes, not to mention they're eating and leaving their rubbish on the beach. So after about an hour of listening to their bullshit conversation and cackling laughter, I'm kinda getting upset. I mean, we walked this far down the beach to get away from the occasional couple of people around. I keep my cool, and I notice they all go for a swim, leaving their food out as they do. About 5 minutes into their swim, I notice a couple of birds, crows, come along and start picking open their Pringle container. Now for those who don't know, crows are very smart birds. Together they help each other eat the entire contents of the container and begin to rummage around the other food. At this point, the girls notice and are trying to call out to us to scare off the birds. My petty revenge part, I pretend I can't hear them, and roll onto my stomach to continue tanning. By the time the girls got out, all of their food was gone. They were pretty grumpy, so they packed up and left. And I finally got to enjoy the peace and quiet I had originally hoped for. Next one is titled, I Knew She Was Trouble When She Walked In. I work at a liquidation store for groceries. Think of it like Big Lots or Ollie's for mostly food only. We're also set up in a fairly poor part of town, so we get a fair amount of characters. I don't want to start an argument about the current state of socioeconomics of America, but, suffice it to say, a lot of our customers have somewhat of an entitled attitude, as though they expect things to be handed out to them. This specific story occurred about 3 months ago. A lady and her elderly mother came in to shop. This lady will be called, entitled Hag, or A for short. A approached me as I was making my way to the office to change a price in the system. She was nice enough at first. A, excuse me, sir? Me, yes ma'am. A, I saw you had some wheelchairs up front. For context, we usually have 2 or 3 wheelchairs up front until they get stolen. They usually get replaced via customers bringing in older ones, as our company budgets pretty tightly and won't buy any. Me, we do. If you need to use one, feel free. Just please return it to the store if you take it out to the parking lot. Let me know if I can help you with anything else. I started up the steps to the office. A, don't walk away from me. Me, pardon? For some reason, I say that to any customer that says this to me, regardless of if I heard them. It just seems polite for some reason. A, I wasn't done. Where are your electric scooters? Me, we don't have any. A, you had one last week. Me, somebody had ridden that from another store and left it here. They came over to get it back. A, you need to have them. I won't push my mother around. You have to provide electric scooters. It's the law. Me, I'm sorry, but we don't provide those. She turned around to talk to her mother, and I hightailed it into the office. While I was up there changing the price, I looked up the ADA laws regarding wheelchairs and scooters for kicks. Turns out, you're not required to provide scooters, or even wheelchairs. You just have to provide handicapped access to your building. I ran into the mod manager on duty, and had a giant grin on my face. For more context, this mod is a gruff, old, former trucker. She doesn't give a crap about anything. She asked me what the heck I was so happy about. I just said nothing and continued on my way. About 20 minutes later, I heard some yelling coming from the registers. It's a smallish store. You can hear people that are yelling from across the store fairly easily. As I was the only male in the store, I headed to the front in case there was an issue that might evolve to physical violence. This, sadly, isn't an overly rare issue. Anyway, I witnessed this conversation. A, I had to push my mother all the way around the store. Mod, so? A, what do you mean, so? I wanted her to use an electric scooter. Mod, and your point? A, getting angrier, with specks of spit starting to fly, you have to provide them. Mod, cool as a cucumber because, as I said, she doesn't give a crap. No, we don't look up the laws. You have to. At that point, I said, excuse us for a second, and pulled my mod to the side to inform her of what the law actually said. Mod, we don't have to provide you even with a wheelchair. Yes you do. I'm going to file a complaint with the police. As if that would even go anywhere. Mod, why? We don't have to provide you with a wheelchair, and if anyone's going to call the police, it'll be me because you're being extremely disorderly. Would you like me to do that, or are you going to get your butt out of here? Silence. Mod, in her most sarcastic, cheery voice, have a nice night. I'm never shopping here again. Me, silently, to myself, bye Felicia. That Mod and I didn't get along for the first 6 months I worked with her, until we realized that we're actually a lot alike after this incident, and now we're pretty good friends. Next one is titled, We Don't Share Alcohol in This House. This story takes place a few years back, when I came home from university for Christmas holidays to visit my family. I was of legal drinking age at the time as well. To set the scene, it's just my mum and I having dinner at the beginning of our time off. She pours herself a glass of wine from an average bottle. I'm not a wine snob, but she is. I ask for a glass as well to go with dinner, she declines. Her exact words are, we don't share alcohol in this house. Okay, not a problem, I didn't know this rule, and as I'm not a heavy drinker, I didn't see the issue with just having a glass out of her bottle. So, I go on off to the liquor store to grab myself a bottle to drink over the next few days, and lo and behold, I find her favorite bottle of wine. It's Burrowing Owls. The liquor store only has a case of it and limits the number of bottles you can buy. It's a rare find and I lucked out. I buy the max, which is 2, and hid one, while I bring the second inside. By now, it's evening, and after dinner. My mum is in the living room finishing her wine. I open the bottle and bring both the bottle and a glass to the living room. My mum eyes up the bottle and asks for a glass. I look her dead in the eyes and say, sorry mum, we don't share alcohol in this house. She offers me 2 of her bottles for mine, says I won't know the difference, but I stand firm, we don't share alcohol in this house. So I force myself to finish the bottle in front of her while she sulks. Christmas morning, after my family has opened up all our gifts, I come out with the second bottle as a gift to my mum. She shared it with me that night. Next one is titled, Quiet Train Car Revenge. I take the train to work each morning and then again to get home. I like to sit in the quiet car because it allows me to think and do a little extra work each day. On the train ride home today, a woman in front of me kept talking on the phone even after people nicely asked her to be quiet. The conductor also came through and informed her she was on a quiet car. The seats we are in have very little support, so someone behind you could push your seat and you'd feel it. Several riders decided it wasn't worth it and switched cars. I decided I had enough and slouched far enough so both of my knees were firmly in the back of her seat, pushing fairly hard. She cocked her head around and told me to put my knees down. I closed my eyes and fake slept. She got up and moved to a different seat. There was a person behind her and guess what he did? Knees to the back of the chair. People started catching on and she chose a seat with no one behind her. Another rider changed seats behind her and she got some more knees. The conductor came through again and was unaware of our little revenge. She got up and told him that people were putting knees into her back and stalking her to each spot. The conductor put his index finger to his lips and said, "Shush, this is a quiet car." She moved to a new train car. Next one is titled, Don't Insult My Engagement Ring. My fiancé and I had been dating for 4.5 years. In that time, we have bought a house together, adopted doggies together, I put him through pharmacy school, med school, and lots of people don't realize that pharmacists get their doctorates, or how competitive pharmacy can be, and we fell even more in love. He's an amazing man and I'm crazy about him. Imagine my excitement that after braving all of the ups and downs and watching life unfold as a team that he proposed. I was overjoyed and through tears of happiness I said yes. And of course our doggies were involved. It's a larger, slightly blush pink, amethyst stone with a halo of topaz around it set in rose gold. I loved it. It was perfect. The next day, I was attending a baby shower for my best friend in my hometown. I trekked my way there, and even though I tried to downplay the engagement because I wanted it to be about her, she made a mini announcement because I knew people who were there. Most people did a little congrats type thing, which was nice, except for her cousin. This girl, let's call her Amy, is super religious. Actually, everyone from my hometown is super religious. And I appreciate their faith, but I didn't like her judgment. She has voiced her opinions before about how people shouldn't live together unless they're married and all that jazz. So when she sauntered over, she took my hand in hers and scrutinized the ring. She more or less said that at least he was making an honest woman out of me and that he had taken too long to propose. Then she kind of scrunched her nose at my ring and asked what kind of stone it was, with a little, snobby, half smile on her face. She also said that it was generic that he would ask me now that he's graduating because that's what everyone does. I don't know what came over me. I love my ring and I've never been this mean girl, but I've known Amy for a while and she's always been like this. She likes to say what terrible decisions other people have made and how she always puts Jesus first, so that's why her life has turned out so well. She says it's because she has followed his plan, which ultimately led to her getting married ridiculously young to a guy who really isn't good for her at all and just leeches off of her. She had to put herself through school and work while he would go on long stints out of the country to find himself and follow God's path, which I really think meant bang other women. She married him in the middle of a college year before one of the times he left, I suspect to entice him to come back and have commitments here. Well, I went for it. I said, oh, he waited until he knew he could provide for me. It's a pink diamond. Her whole face changed from smug to envious. She practically threw my hand down and mumbled how happy she was for me. I looked up how big my petty lie had been later, only to find out that yes, pink diamonds are actually a thing, and the teeny ones are like $10,000. But hey, she doesn't have to know how poor we are. We are rich with unconditional love and loyalty, and that's why I'm happy to call him my future husband. Next one is titled, Customer Wanted to Pay with a Big Note. I made sure she got her exact change. Just happened. It's towards the end of the business day for my bottle shop. I'm running low on certain items of change in the register, so I am asking for people to pay with exact amounts, or by card. Enter Karen. Karen comes in, and purchases a $7 bottle of wine. If she was to pay with a $10 note, that's okay. But she decided she wanted to pay with a $50 note. I asked her if she had anything smaller, and she claimed she didn't, yet I could see the edge of a $10 note in her purse. I could have given her two $20 notes, or a $20 and a $10 and two $5 notes as part of her change, but I decided not to. I decided to get some petty revenge on her. For while I may have been very short on notes, I had plenty of coins, especially $1 coins, as a customer had paid a $20 sale with $1 coins just 30 minutes ago. So I told Karen that I would have to give a few coins in her change, then proceeded to count out $43 in $1 coins. Her face was getting redder and redder, until eventually, at about the $25 mark, she said, wait, I might have a $10 note, and then proceeded to get the $10 note out to pay with. Next one is titled, An Entrepreneur in the Making. In the 4th grade, on a military base in Texas, I used to ride my mother's bicycle off the base to the local comic book store. I'd spend my entire allowance on comics. I would then spend the rest of the week selling these comics to the rest of my 4th grade class, for double the cover price. I got to read all the comics and made a healthy profit on them as well. One day my teacher, Mr. Smith, found out about my scheme and confiscated my entire collection of comics. They weren't disrupting class, as I sold them before and after school, and I had them in a paper sack in my desk like I did every week. I was as angry as a 10-year-old could get. So I gathered all the money I had, $10, and went to the local commissary. I bought all the bulk penny candy I could. It ended up filling a grocery sack about half full. That's a lot of candy. Then the next day, I smuggled it into the school. I showed it to all the kids before the day started, and announced anyone who got yelled at, got a handful, and anybody who got sent to the principal's office got 4 handfuls. Chaos ensued, as I sat back and watched, angelically glaring at Mr. Smith. Once the second kid sent to the principal's office, I got ratted out. The principal sent for me and Mr. Smith together, and someone else took over the class. Once in the office, the principal asked me what was going on. I explained in detail, still angry, speaking in clipped terms what Mr. Smith had done, and how I would keep making his life miserable till I got my comics book back. I glared at both of them with little hands folded in defiance. When they sent me out of the room, I could hear both of them break out in uncontrollable laughter. I got my comics back. Next one is titled, Park in My Spot? I hope you like fish. In my apartment complex, each apartment has a fixed, numbered parking spot. My spot is quite well located, and until today nobody else has ever parked in it. Today a snowstorm was forecasted, so I did some last-minute shopping to make sure we can survive the next 2 days in comfort, but when I got home my parking spot was surprisingly not empty. I reported the car, but it turns out that during inclement weather the parking policy is not enforced. I parked around the corner and wished mild discomfort on the parking spot thief. But then got on with making my signature clam chowder. Later on this evening it was once again time to walk my dog, and I was thinking about how to take revenge on the psychopath who stole my spot. My eye turned towards the empty fish stock carton. Yes, I know it is cheating, but the chowder is so much better when you use it. I filled the carton with water and walked downstairs with my enthusiastic dog. The offending car was still in my spot, so I gave it a healthy dose of fish aromated water over the door handles and the windshield. It is freezing quite hard here, so the owner will have a lot of fun in the morning. I might have overreacted, but don't steal my spot. Last one is titled, I asked you nicely to stop bringing them into the office. A while back, I had a horrible supervisor. This woman was a loud bully and was always calling out sick. They rearranged offices in our department and I had to share a room with her. She would bring in bouquets of gardenia flowers from her yard when they were in bloom. Gardenia is a smell that will give me a headache near migraine level very quickly. She would bring in the flowers and then call out sick within a day or two, so she wasn't there to enjoy them. The smell gets stronger over time. I asked her nicely to please stop bringing them in, but as I said earlier, she was a bully and wouldn't listen. Everyone else was scared of her, so going to HR wasn't an option as they wouldn't go near her. Did you know that if you pinch a gardenia bloom that it will bruise, turn brown and start to die? Well, she didn't. When she brought them in, I'd go over and pinch the blooms every time she was out of the room. She couldn't understand why the blooms at the office were dying so quickly and the ones at home were fine. After a few times, she got so frustrated with them not lasting that she stopped bringing them in. To this day, she still hasn't figured it out. Thanks for listening.